Oh, there's my hat. You pain in the ass. No. Hello again. I was trying to reach for the hat, but I guess it didn't want to come my way. Oop, my bad. Didn't want to put it on. Just wanted to grab it. Anyway. Welcome back to Conspiracy Theories. More than you believe. Today's going to be a bit different. Well, not really different. I thought maybe how about some stories? Since this is the last week of this month, why don't we do a few ghost stories and see what people have experienced paranormally? For they can be the most interesting of stories that we come across in today's society. Shall we find out? I think we shall. Come, let's go find out. All right, here we go. Also, the link to the article is always in the description. Always. 3 true ghost stories for your next backyard campfire. Shall we explore these? I think we shall. Damn, a campfire sounds a bit right now. Especially that it's getting colder. Alright, we have our first story. Come on. We have the ghost of Oxford Milford Road. Storyline written. Here we go. When Brad Culp was a student in Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, there was a rumor that the town was one of the most haunted places in America. When Culp started an on-campus magazine, he couldn't wait to write about several of the area's most famous phenomena. Not long after his story was published, though, he kept finding himself thinking about one ghost in particular, the ghost of Oxford Milford Road. As the story goes, many decades ago, probably sometime in the 1940s, there was a young man courting a woman in a rural part of the town. Because the woman's parents didn't approve of the match, each night he visited under the cover of darkness. After her parents went to bed, the young woman would sneak out of her the farmhouse, and flash the lights of her parents' car 3 times. Then the young satyr would ride his motorcycle down the road. Sounds interesting. It almost sounds like the 50s, to be honest, but there was motorcycles in the 40s. One night, he took the turn right before her house a little too sharp, says Culp. The motorcycle went one way, and he went the other. His injuries were so severe that he did not survive. Rumor has it, however, that his love-struck ghost still haunts this stretch of Milford Road. Curious, Culp and his girlfriend, now his wife, and a friend decided to head out there one night to see if they could verify the tale. His girlfriend was worried. She didn't completely freak out. To be completely freaked out. She believes more in that stuff than I do, Culp says. But he was mostly concerned of his suspicions, that none of this was actually true, would be confirmed. On this particular night, as Culp passed the abandoned farm, an idea came to him, and he pitched it to his girlfriend. How could she not say yes? Though, oh, wow. He popped the question while they're on a ghost hunt? That's funny. What a dick. That's a terrible time to do that. Though recently, she delented, and Colt turned a short way into the farmhouse driveway. He killed the engine and flashed lights 3 times. No joke. There was a single headlight that appeared 3/4 of a mile down the road. Colt said, "Yeah, I mean, you saw it start. You see, it started to come, going pretty slow. It kept going and coming. I mean, coming and my gosh, that came out wrong. It kept coming and coming. My wife is freaking out. It was coming closer and closer. As a collision seemed imminent, Colt turned on his car lights. He expected to see a kid on a bike bailing out from his prank now that he'd been caught. But there's nothing there. The light is just gone," he says. How interesting that it showed up after he did the exact trick that the young lover did to pull him in. And then all of a sudden he turned his lights on and it disappeared. Let's finish the story, shall we? They got out of the car. They walked around trying to figure out what it was they could have seen. To this day, we still talk about it. I saw something I couldn't explain, he says. It kept him and his wife around a campfire. They'll swear up and down that the story is true. And if you ever are in Oxford, Ohio, consider parking for just a few minutes of Oxford Middleford Road at night to test your own nerve. Oof, how interesting. Very interesting indeed. What do you think? She's gonna stand there and look at me, ominously. That was the first story. How intriguing. A ghost motorcycle. I've heard of a few other types of things like that, but a ghost motorcycle, that's interesting indeed. Shall we continue? On to story number 2. Was it people or was it aliens? Oh, look! Aliens! Oh, joy. Just what we need. Some of the stuff that I love to look into. Shall we? I think we shall. Doug Averill grew up as one of the 8 boys on his parents' sprawling dude ranch. The Fletcher Lake Lodge is rural Montana. As a teen, the Averill boys ran wild. We rode around as a little gang of cowboys, he remembers. They'd saddle up and head off to check cattle on the 3 giant tracts of land the family managed, which formed a triangle around some of the state's most remote rangeland. One summer, in the 1960s, the brothers came across a ghastly sight. There on the ground were 3 dead cows neatly arranged in a circle. No, obviously wounds were visible, but their reproduction organs had been removed. But there was never any blood. It was almost surgically removed, Arian remembers. Surgically removed. Have we heard that term before? I think we have a few times on this show. I think that was with the ranch. Skinwalker Ranch and a few other sections I think I've covered of that type of phenomena of surgically removed with no blood. Shall we continue? I think we shall. During this decade, America was obsessed with aliens, and the write-ups in the local newspaper position perhaps this was the work of extraterrestrials. People mused that aliens had taken the reproductive organs for testing, but one day Averill and his friends came across a lance in their path. Attached to it was a cryptic note with the threatening message. Quote, "That's when we thought it got to be people doing this," unquote, he says. Then things got really strange. Over the next few days, a series of odd events unfolded. First, the brothers stopped in at a local bar to grab a hamburger. Probably a few drinks too. Who knows? Leaving their horses in the back of the stock truck. The horses were packed in tightly, and the arbiters were only gone for a few minutes. When they came back, the horses packed in the middle of the truck was mysteriously out. Interesting. With no signs of a struggle. We had no idea how they possibly could have gotten that horse unloaded without unloading all the others, he says. The next day, a new wrangler on the ranch fell off his horse and was badly injured. They'd all been riding together, but not in a single other member of the crew saw the accident. It was the weirdest thing, Avril said. The man's injuries were so severe that he was left permanently disabled. Oof. Ouch. That would suck. Finally, the last terrible thing happened. An old camp cook drove out to meet the brothers and ride for a day. But when he arrived, the tailgate on his stock truck had somehow gone missing, even though it had been there when he'd loaded up his horse. Betsy had fallen out of the truck and been dragged behind the vehicle for who knows how long. Ugh! Ow, that sounds dreadful, actually. Ugh! How do you not hear an animal behind you being dragged? It makes me kind of cringe. Oh, okay. They had to put her down on the spot. To be honest, I just killed him. It just killed him to see what had happened to Betsy. We possibly should have put him down, too. Remember, those three events were just boom, 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 boom. Three things in a row that were so weird, all tied together, because they were right before we saw that spear. End quote. He remembers three things, like the three dead cows left in a circle. Avril used to tell the stories from the summer around the campfire quite a bit. But over the years, he's gotten new stories, and so they've been shifting out of the rotation. Besides, they're awfully grim. But he recently got a call about a downed bull, a buffalo. It was out in one of the most remote parts of his ranch. A neighbor had seen a pack of 16 wolves, and normally wolves don't bother buffalo, but 16 of them? I thought, well, maybe. He went to investigate. There, laying in a snow-covered field, was the bull. But there were no bullet holes, or teeth marks, or gashes on its corpse. Even stranger, scavenging animals and birds hadn't touched it. Not even the buzzards, which is really unusual. That's true, actually. That's weird to think about. No wounds on the animal, not even the most usual of bird type to go after a carcass? Huh. He says one other thing was amiss. Its reproductive organs were gone, and there wasn't a single footprint in the snow around it, or anywhere along the mile-long walk into the ranch from the nearest road. Asked Enville whether he thinks he's dealing with aliens or humans, He'll tell you he's pretty sure it's humans. But I'd rather it was aliens, he adds. After that summer back in the 60s, seeing what humans were capable of, he'd pick aliens any day. Interesting story. I'm gonna lie. It's not the first time I've heard of things like that. I almost think it was something a bit more abnormal. Humans can be precise on things, but it mentioning the animal's reproductive systems being removed a few times in that little article was very. It just makes you think. We have one more. The ghost of La Palva Sky Resort. Throughout Latin America, you'll hear various stories of La Llorona, or the Wailing Woman. Some wait, why have I heard that before? La Llorona. Why have I heard that before? Is this that one bitch that takes children in the folklore? Yeah, I guess we're about to find out. Or the wailing woman. Sometimes she's lost her husband, sometimes she's lost her children, sometimes it's both. But in La Parva, a ski spot in Chilean Andes, the wailing woman is named Lolia, and everyone in the area swears they know her before she died. A local restaurant owner said he dated her. Pro skier Drew Tabaki says, adding that the ski patroller had heard the story from pointing at the exact hut where this tale takes place. The story starts in a nice day in peak sky season. Lilia and her young son planned to spend the day on the slopes, as can happen in the Andes. A thick fog rose up from the valley, which often precedes the arrival of a real storm. The clouds involved the two as they were making their way down from the top of the mountain, and they lost control with one another, Tabaki says. Despite to find her son, Lolia began screaming his name as she ran through the thick fog, unable to see clearly, though she stumbled down a steep slope and began sliding towards a rocky couloir. By chance, a local lift operator who was returning to his cabin came across her body. He was afraid she was dead, but on closer inspection, he found she was still alive. Just barely, Tabaki says. Her body was covered in lacerations from the sharp rocks, and the only word she said, in the faintest whisper, was her son's name. The lift operator worked to carefully pull her body to his cabin, which was just up the hill. He bandaged, not banged, jeepers, my bad on pronunciation. He bandaged her cuts as best he could, and then ran to fetch the doctor. Together, the doctor and I think that's supposed to be him, and the lift operator made their way back to his hut. The fog hung thick in the air. When they arrived, though, the bed was empty, just the blood sheets remaining. Neither the woman nor her son were ever found, Tabasky says. But local reports hearing her wail for her children whenever you're near that lift operator's cabin. And there's the thing, Tabaki does not believe in ghosts. Something, however, changed when he arrives in Chile each winter. Maybe it's the fact that from La Palvia you can see up to Cario El Plamo on an infant child sacrifice site. Oh dear, how terrible. Maybe it's because Debake simply read too many magazine realism books by authors like Joan Rufio and Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but still alone in his cabin in the Andes, which is the wind whipping and the candles flickering. He swears that every now and then he just can't tell if what he's hearing is a woman or the wind. How creepy. Well then, 2 ghost stories. 2 very interesting ghost stories. And one possibly about aliens. Makes you think about what's really going on in the world. What do we really know in today's society? There is things that are unseen to us that we do not truly believe. Oh yes, my friends, there is many things that we do not see outside of our own understanding. That's the fun part about it. Don't go looking for it either. That can be a bad thing. But just know this. When you come across certain events upon your own life, and you experience the unseen, just remember, it's the experience that makes it count upon where and when it happens. Because just because something is there that you cannot see does not mean it's not there. Just remember that. And with all of this, could this all just be simple stories, conspiracies, theories even? Or could it be more than you believe? See you on the next one, my dear friend.